So let's begin our day with continuation of macro programs, where last time we saw how we were processing complete statements in macros, correct? We also saw about how your conditional processing works within your macro program, and you see it with M logic. So this is with complete statements, which you saw you was creating a table called customers and extracting the information on country value US. If this is not true, then it should work with this criteria when country value is not equal to US and how it works. So this was overall, we had seen how your macro gets processed with conditional processing and when we pass on the complete statements. Okay, so now let's discuss. So it's telling what is the difference between %if with %then and compared with your simple SAS if then. So what is the main difference? Very simple.
Macro.
%if %then only works within your macro program.
Macros. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. If then else is your base SAS statement. So this is again in detail they are discussing. %if %then is valid within macro definition. If then in your data step. Whereas what it performs %if %then SAS code, which is mostly text processing. Here it is data processing. Correct? Because it directly works with data. Here it works with your macro statements. Hence it's called as text within your SAS code. Of course, because it is preceding with %sign, it is going to process in your macro processor. This will be simple your data step compiler. Whereas %if %then purpose is determine what SAS code to place on the input stack for tokenization, compilation, and eventual execution. Whereas if then else, it determine what data step or statements to execute during execution time iteration of your data step with the condition which we provide with if then statement. Okay, so this is the difference between %if %then. So you can always remember this slide number 24 of this lesson. Difference between %if then and simple if then of your data step. All right. So whenever you'll be revising for your interview, keep this slide in mind. All right. So now let's understand a next scenario. It's telling create a macro that conditionally generates a one-way frequency report or a two-way frequency report. Now we know what one-way frequency means. In your table statement of proc_fric, you can write two variables. So or a single variable, whatever the list of variables you write with table, for every variable it will create a one-way frequency report. Whereas if we write in table statement two variables and in case if we write an asterisk sign between them, so it becomes a two-way frequency report. So it's like you are having a row and a column versus type of presentation of your data to compare or to check the values for these two columns together. Correct? So this gives you a two-way report. So we are going to use in your input table as customer_dim to write a program to generate the report for one-way and two-way frequency report. So let's see how we can automate this type of program with macro. So we are going to now learn how to process your macro with partial statement. Earlier we were saying it was complete statement. Now we are passing on partial statement. Okay. Now why partial statement? Because if you see this code very carefully, it's your macro which you're creating with a parameter called rows. So it has a frequency procedure in it. So see your tables, they have not provided any type of column specification for tables for analysis. Directly you're giving a condition if whatever the rows are, which are your macro variable value %rows, which is not equal to, which is your missing value, then %then %rows is going to have asterisk with this column. Okay. So how it works, we'll see. That means when you call your macro without any value, which is a null macro, by default. Okay, so it will work with this column. How it works, we'll see. Okay, but this is what we have passed on a partial statement. So this table statement actually completes here in case if you pass on only a single value when you call it, but it is a partial statement which you are creating. So conditionally insert text into middle of your statement. Example is generate either a one-way or a two-way frequency table depending on parameter values. Now you are calling a macro, one with null value without a parameter value and one with parameter value. So let's see how it works when you're calling a macro with no parameter values. So when it is a null parameter, means see it works as tables customer gender. Why? Because it is true, right? Because it is null parenthesis. So ampersand rows is not equal to missing, but it is currently missing. So hence it will not work this criteria. It will directly take this column as an analysis variable in your table statement. And that is what it's doing here. Okay. And when you call the same macro with customer age group, now the condition which you have created that currently it's not missing, but you are giving a condition if ampersand rows is not equal to missing. Yes, now you have provided a value as customer age group. Therefore, this ampersand, then it will be your customer age group should be in collision with customer gender. So you'll get a two-way frequency report for these two columns. Got it now? Look at this program carefully.
So what did you say? What is the meaning of asterisk in between two?
It's actually combination, right? It will create a two-way
Okay.
frequency report. So
Relative,
this take this yeah this takes your row
Okay.
your column dimension. This take your row dimension. It's a
Okay.
relation between customer age group and your
And
customer
customer.
gender.
Okay.
Correct?
Hmm.
So that is partial statements which you are passing on. So if we look into this demo, so it's demo with your macro with D04. So see, so this data which is it's customer underscore name table. So if you check this table carefully, customer underscore name. So it's a demographic or a time. It's only giving you the description of customer. That is customer ID, country, gender, name. All right. So first name, last name, birth date, age group, customer type, customer age. So these are the columns. So currently you are passing your macro with null values, and this is creating first will create your macro. Because mcompile note is not on, so you're not getting any message in log. So if you want to see that also, you can write options mcompile not equal to all. Okay, so it's compiled only macro statements without any errors. Now I call this macro with null values. Mlogic, mprint, no symbol gen, but we want symbol gen. So because of mprint, it's telling you have your macro mprint. See, when you call this, it's telling this is your underlying program. So you are having a frequency return done on orient dot customer underscore name. Because of symbol gen, your rows is resolving to missing value. Now, because it's a missing value, in your code, you had already given table with no values, but you are ending with this here. and you are giving this condition in between. So because this condition is false, it's taking with tables this column customer gender to be analyzed, and therefore the report you are getting frequency report only on customer gender for male and female. But now when I pass on the value as customer age group, so now your parameter value you're passing as customer age group. So it will work with your condition. Now what condition you have provided in your statement, that percent if ampersand rows is not equal to missing. But this condition is false because currently you have passed on the value. Hence, it will take it as ampersand rows, which is customer age group in relation with customer gender. And that is why the result which you get, that you get gender as row dimension and customer age group as your, sorry, this is column dimension, this is your row dimension. So age group is 15 to 30 years. Therefore, for female, the age group count for this is 12 and for male is 10. Getting it? So same goes here, right? Understood? So this is two-way frequency report. So it is giving you a relation between your this column and this column. Hence, it's called as two-way frequency report. Understood now?
Yes.
Okay. So this will come as, or it will be looking into, or when you see your code properly, this will be as tables, one column, asterisk, second column. So it is to have a relation between this
Between two
table,
columns.
between these two columns. So in case now we know we have seen this table and we want to see, suppose you had customer age group and customer gender. So in case age group and age. Now let's check about some other column, while column. We will take only customer age. Okay. So let's check. Now when we call this, how is it work? So age and gender. So when you check your log, age versus gender. So 19 age, we female have 2 counts, whereas male has 1 count. So this is what you get the output. So it is two-way frequency report. Understood? So it actually looks like your frequency code, it will look like tables and like this. So in short, the same thing, how it will look is, I write profit data equal to Orion dot customer underscore in tables. It's customer age group. Versus customer gender. This is how it will work when you actually call it with age group. So your code will be like this. And it will give you the report age group versus gender. Right? Same report we were getting it when we call it like this. Understood?
Yes.
This is your macro call and this is your profit call. See, same thing. Right? That's it. So this was about partial statements within macro which are getting processed and an exercise. So we can work on this exercise. So before working on this exercise, if you want, you can just have an hands-on on this demo, which is D04. Lesson 5 D04, and then we can work with an exercise on it. Done with the demo?
No.
2 minutes,
No
Ashwini.
problem.
Just
Yes,
2 minutes
sure. Take your time. Take your time.
because I log out.
Come to page 5-15. Level 1, exercise number 1 of your PDF book. Conditionally processing complete statements. It's telling you already have a code provided to you, which is your exercise N105E01 program shown below into your editor window. It's a program of creating a macro of listing where you have a parameter provided as first type. Within a macro, it's written proctoring data equal to orient.customer, and you're calling it with a value of first type as 2010.
10.
So it's telling modify this program where you are going to test cust type parameter. If the value is null, insert the following statements into your proc print. So this is what you have to write it as conditional statement. That in case your cust type parameter value would be cust type, which is null, then it should select variables and give the title all customers. If the value is not null, insert the following statements within your proc print, where customer type, ID, var, and title should be this report consists for customer type and your specific customer type. Then submit this macro definition and call your macro using a null value and a valid value of your cust type. So before working on this, let's understand your input table for column custom. So it's customer table. So you have
Yon.
Orion customer table. So this is a table of describing your customer. So you have customer ID, the country, gender, personal ID in case, name, of course. Apart from it, you also have first name, last name column separately. Birth date, customer address, street, and customer type ID. This is the various customer IDs. So currently it was working with 2010. So it's a customer type and its ID. Okay.
Hmm.
This is the value. So it's telling depending on customer type, you can generate a report. But in case if you do not provide any value of customer type, it should give you the print report for all these values. Okay, so that's what they were telling. So in case if you check the code now, it's E01 for M5301. It's lesson 1, E01. So say simply, if I simply copy this outside your macro, run proctoring, you know it will generally give you the report for all your customers as a list report, correct? So it will list all the columns and all the variables of your table into your report. So this should be report when you call your customer without any customer type. Now here it's telling it's this. So what I do is I simply create a macro first. Okay, so it's compiled without any errors. I call it with this customer type value. This customer type, now the report which I'll be getting is only, but it's giving you a detailed report. Again, the same thing for all the customers. We had not inserted any statements within your program that when customer type is this, then it should give you the report only for customer type 2010, correct? Are you getting it? I hope you have
Okay.
understood. It's the same thing what we had seen with proc freak in the earlier demo example.
Percent if and then we have not.
Right. So it's telling modify your macro to test customer type parameter. So it's currently when we test this value by passing on the value with this, it's giving you the detailed report for proc because your program consists proc print, right? Proc print is
Hmm.
for all the values. We have not,
Yes.
did we write subsetting any criteria for this value of customer type?
No.
No, correct. So that's why it's telling you can create this macro and modify by passing on these statements. This should work for all customers for your prop print when your customer underscore type value is null. Then only it should give you this detailed report, which we
Yeah.
saw it currently.
Hmm.
Though even we are passing this value, we are still getting the list report. So that's what they are now telling, coming back to your description, that in case if it's not none, that means you're passing on the value, which should give you the value only on this criteria, where you are subsetting this ID with cust underscore type, and you're selecting only this columns for your report, and your title should come only for that customer type. Getting it?
Hmm.
So that we have to modify it by passing on the statements into your macro. Understood?
Yeah. So we have to write if
Correct.
ampersand.
So you can write percentage.
Yeah,
Correct. You
percent if
can
that
write
is important, not only if.
right percentage because in your program they have
Yeah.
given you need to select var and all this. So you cannot use where because it is going to be on all the rows. Correct. So while calling you can write while calling ampersand percentage ampersand cust
First type.
type.
First is spelling first.
Yeah, first spelling. Cust type
Null, right?
is null. So you do not provide any value.
Correct.
Okay, is
Hmm.
equal to null.
Then
Percent then you are going to give var What columns they are telling here?
Customer
All these
ID,
columns, and
customer
it should
name.
work with this title.
3 variables.
Correct? And it should give ideally this report. Right?
Hmm.
So now how you'll work ahead? How will give the statements? So this is on this condition, this is multiple statements. So you are going to make use of
Do, percent do.
absolutely correct.
If else, and yeah, then
We have
else,
else.
percent else, yeah. Emphasis first.
Okay, not equal to missing.
Then do.
Come with this. Agreed? Right?
Yeah.
Let's give some space here so that we come to know. This is
This
for
is
this.
first condition, this
Yes.
is second.
Correct. Let's compile. Hope for good that it works. Compilation, we won't have any error because it will compile only macros programs. So while calling, let's see how it works. The first thing is
Percent
person listing
listing, yeah.
null parenthesis.
Hmm.
Okay. Now your M logics and all is already on because of your previous code. Yes. So when it is into your log, so this is where you have called it. So
Yeah.
it's telling mprint listing, procprint in your input data. So your macro variable cust type is resolving to missing. Therefore, it's working with all these customers and title is coming this. So customer ID, customer name, customer type. Customer ID, customer name, customer type, all
And
customers.
title is all customers, yeah.
Okay. Now I call it with this value. Now looking into your customer, we have so many customer ID types. Okay. So we'll check one by one. So first we'll call this listing with calling with 2010.
Yeah, value.
Correct. So that is customer underscore type underscore ID value.
So we will get only
Yes,
Only
we
20.
got customer type for 2010. This is the customer IDs who are from customer ID type, okay, and these are the customer names.
name.
So when you check your log, so when you call this, because what is this customer ID type? So this is the ID type for on your customers provided. Okay, so it's type of customer and a particular ID for them. So this could assign or this could mean some meaning for the report. So procprint, so it's telling your macro variable cust type is resolving to 2010 because in your program, if you have seen, we are using this in where to subset in title to use that customer type, correct? And we are also telling this condition. That is why in log, it's telling you 2 or 3 symbol gen that it's resolving. One is with your condition, one is with your where clause, and one is with your title.
Okay.
So in where also it is subsetting your data on this column value, and in title it's giving this value. That is why the result is subsetting on 2010. That these are so many customers. And how about the variables? We have selected only 2 variables. Hence the result is coming on 2 variables.
Right. It means like there are 13 customer ID, which is 2010 with this name, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So now we'll call it with 10:30. Okay, so let's call your ID with
10:30. Hmm.
so it's not your individual customer ID, okay? It's a type of customers, and they have given some ID for it. Okay, so maybe this type of customers they might have something. So these are all those which has the ID 10:30, and these are all those customers with their name. Now, why you are not getting observation column? Because in your proc print you have separate,
No obs.
right?
Yes.
So this is what currently it's telling. Customer ID is or your first time macro variable is resolving to this value.
Yeah. When you're
It's
typing
resolving
code,
to
it
where?
looks very easy for us.
So you can try this now. Go ahead.
Yes, definitely.
E01. Yeah. So let's check your error.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So when I calling this macro or null,
So it's highlighting somewhere was missed.
no obs, it's saying and for. So in between, I don't know.
Expecting an equal sign and value to follow SAS option obvious. Okay, show me a
State.
code. It's proc print data equal to obvious percent if ampersand first type is ampersand then ampersand then two.
Yeah. So here, null. We need null here, right? Value.
Give some space. Give proper spacing.
Yeah. Actually, I did it. Even that was not working. Okay.
Okay, one sec.
Hmm.
Percentage, ampersand first type, not equal to missing. Again, give that space between not equal to and percent, then a good space.
Here.
Right.
Okay.
Where customer type ID is ampersand type. Okay, now compile this program, submit your macro.
I'm not getting any result.
That's
What's the
it.
result?
For this, it's working. See.
For me, that null parenthesis, I have got the result.
Yeah.
Give me the remote access.
Sure.
Done.
Yes.
So,
I tried everything actually. Space and M come is equal to all. Yeah, without error. Hmm.
now this is now it's coming.
Yeah. What I did wrong?
I just give another white space here.
Oh. Okay.
Yes.
In your code, actually, yeah, I got that result for this, but just
I just give another white space. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
In case if you want to split it away, all customers. Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
So, yes, anytime. I'll stop my remote access and you can stop your
Share.
sharing.
Okay. Okay, I stop.
So let's check or let's have how one can validate the parameters. Now you know what parameter validation is, correct? We had seen that when we were calling this macro, this is the null parameter value. This is your parameter
You can see
value.
screen, Ashwin.
One sec. I have not started with sharing maybe. Alright. So the next topic is parameter validation. Now in our program, we know what parameter is, correct? So this is currently the macro with null parameter value. So below macro is calling with the parameter list value, correct? So this parameter values, are they right or wrong? That is what we are going to validate it. Hence its parameter validation. Okay. So objectives here is will perform parameter validation with the OR operator and of course with in operator, and will perform data driven parameter validation as well. So scenario here is will validate a parameter against a list of valid country values and will explore 3 possible methods. So we have in your data all various country AD or IDs or codes. So among the list of your country codes, when you're calling your macro with this DE value, is it a valid country code parameter value? That is why we are getting the report. So that's what it's telling. Will validate a parameter against a list of valid country values, and will explore this, how one can check this value of parameter which you are passing is among the valid country values from your table, is by having 3 possible methods. So let's look into your first possible method. So we are going to get introduced to the operator OR within your macro. Ideally, we know what OR is, right? When we give a condition, we are going to select the values on multiple condition values, correct? So most of the time we write OR. So this is what it's telling. Percentage ampersand places AU or ampersand places CA or this or this or this. Now all these are your character values from data. But though those are character value, those are case sensitive. But because we are writing it within macro, we know we never provide any codes. Okay. So in case you are creating a macro variable called place and you have upcase on place to be created, and these are all possible values of your ampersand places. So therefore you are writing OR. So in case if this is OR is true, then do print on your customers to select this columns where upcase for ampersand place and give the title customers from ampersand place. And for this then do, else you are telling it should write a message in log telling error, no customers from any of the given list of your macro or any of the macros which you have followed. So you see there are 2 dots provided. One acts as the end of your macro variable reference. One period ends as your error statement, and this semicolon is the end for your %put statement. Okay, now see, you're calling customers with small case DE and you're calling customers with small case AA. Now looking at this values AA, we tell that this is invalid data among the list. Hence, it should give this type of message. In case if you call DE, though you are calling in small case, it will check this list of parameter values. It's into upcase you have given the instruction. So it is having this DE within your data. Hence, it will create this report. Okay. So that is how when you call with DE, you get the output. But when you call it with AA, you get this error message. Now, why you're getting this? It's because you have given this criteria to write it into log and error message. Now, we know error is a keyword and it most of the time comes into uppercase along with colon. So you write it as it is because it's a manual statement which you are typing and you are telling no customers from ampersand place. This period is the delimiter for your ampersand place. This period is the end of this statement, whereas semicolon is end of your percent statement. That is why you get this period as end of this statement. Got it now? Understood?
Yeah.
So it's demo 5. See? So now while calling again, let's check all of this. So this is for DE, but yes, you are getting an error. Now why that error is? It's because when you call this customer with AA, it's checking for this values because it's resolving your macro variable place, because in your program, you have provided this statement for all these values. So it's currently resolving to all AAAE, which is not among this parameter list. Hence, at the end, it is working with this percent else to write this statement in your log. And that is why you're getting this statement as you do not have any value as AA in your validation list. Now, while calling again, I pass on this value as null value, suppose. Okay, let's see how it works. It's an error. Why? Because it's telling as per your program consists your percent let statement and conditional statement where macro variable place should resolve to. So it's all missing values. So it's telling there is no values in your call where it is missing in your validation list, because in our validation list we do have values, but we do not have anywhere missing. That is why we get this error that no customers from, which is null. Hence this period is the end of your statement. Correct? Again, while calling, I may give the value as suppose small case ZA.
Hmm.
So you're getting the result for small case ZA. So looking into your program, it will tell you that yes, this all is resolving. So because you have written upcase, it is upcasing your ZA. So while calling this, you have this parameter value, it is true. Hence, it's running with procprint and it's subsetting your data and it's generating a report for all the customers with ZA as a country. All right. So this was one example where you are passing the parameter values with OR operator. Okay. So if you understood this, instead of using all OR operator, which SAS comparison operator compares a value to a list of values. So again, instead of writing OR and repeating the statement, what is an either statement which can replace this OR? Very simple. You have multiple same values. It's a list of values for a single column.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a hint.
In quotation
Yes.
mark, we have to
Correct. So
do
you can use
FR, comma,
in
CA, comma.
operator. In
Yeah.
operator. Correct. So
Okay.
now remember when you are writing the same program, okay, with your in operator percent if ampersand place, you just write in parentheses like this. No need of providing any quotes. Okay, remember that. Later on, I'll be removing these spaces also. Currently, I'm just removing this R and all. correct?
Mm.
But remember, we are writing into macro, so we never put all this into quotes. But
Yeah.
when you are writing a macro with in operator, you need to tell SAS that your macro consists an in operator. So you need an option to be used as in some source or yes. So that's what it was telling. Ideally, in base SAS, we write it in this way. But this is a comparison operator with in operator in SAS, same as you write with your macro, but here we do not write with. See, if not even the parenthesis, not even the this, and because you are using an in operator, you need to tell SAS while creating a macro that your macro consists this in. It's not a value for this ampersand place, so it's an in operator. So you need to tell SAS that it's m in operator. Okay, so that was I was trying to tell you here that we are writing m in operator as one of its option. No need of writing this parenthesis also. Okay. So what is M in operator? Most of the time, an in operator option is required because in is the operator which you are writing in your macro without any parameter or without any parenthesis. Hence, it's not a part of this values which you're providing. It's actually the in operator within your macro. Hence, you need to tell SAS that within this macro, you have this macro in operator. All right. So it's mandatory. So it's telling what can be done if the value list is extremely long or changes frequently or both. Now here it's all fine. It's only 6 or 7 values. Therefore, you're typing. But what if you have the values which are too long?
Or something I can do. No?
Right? Yeah.
You can give star something like before also.
Star.
Yeah.
Sure. Just moving into this. Let us compile this and execute.
Comma is there, I think, Ashwini. So it is what? That comma was there.
What I gave in here?
In everything, comma, AU, comma you can remove. No?
Yeah. So the special signs are not required actually when you are writing this macro parameters list. Done. We get the result for D. Okay, so we saw with in operator. So now the question is, are you going to always type this list of values? How can you more simplify or automate your program? Any idea? So instead of writing this percent if ampersand place like this, creating it in this way with percent let statement, can we use SQL? Because in SQL, if you use a column of country code to be analyzed, depending on number of values, you can create a series of macro variables on every row, if you remember, with ProcSQL.
I think that one we can select
See this,
star, we
see
can
this. Select star, how come you use select star? So that's what it's in ProcSQL, correct?
do.
So see ProcSQL, no print, select distinct values of country. So it's a keyword that you are selecting distinct values so that you are not having any duplicates. Into clause, colon lists separated by space. So what this will do is it will create series of values for this country where the values will be separated by space. So it's a single macro variable that all the values of country will be saved into list of this columns. So in short, what it is telling is, in case if I create this by writing a program,
It will not take the duplicates, it will take only the distance.
so like for example, I use ProcSQL because it's a macro call without semicolon. It is giving us like this. ProcSQL select if I write country. Okay, for example, from what's your data set? Orion.country. Okay. simple query. Now, with this query, it will give you the result where it will give you all the rows from the column country. Now, you may have sometimes repetitive value, but here they are distinct values. So in case if I have the same data for customer team, now the customer team data, do we have country column? Yes. So there you may have, see, US is repeated. So total 77 rows. So what I'm trying to show you here is,
With the distinct value, it will take only the
distinct, that is word distinct itself means it is going to be your, or it will not select any duplicate. So repetitive values are removed. So for example, it's customer underscore tip.
country underscore customer is the column, I think.
Okay. Column name is country underscore customer. Is it?
Just
And
check.
customer underscore country.
Country.
Customer underscore country. So when I select this, it will select only one column to be queried, and see it's telling you have repetitive values. Now these are all repetitive values. So in case if I use a keyword called distinct, without distinct is a keyword, it's not written in parentheses because it's not a function. It's a keyword to select distinct values from every column, whichever we write or include in your select statement. So for every column, it will select the distinct values. Okay. So now I have only one column. So now when I execute this, it will give me only the non, or it will remove the duplicate values and give me the distinct values of my country from my data. Got it now?
Yes.
Okay. Now the same thing we are doing for our current table. So let this be as it is. Let us use country. So for a safer side, we are using distinct. Okay, because we do not know whether it has repetitive value. But on this column, I may have a macro created. I write into clause to create a macro, giving a colon and give the macro as list. Now remember, if I simply write it like this, what will happen? It will create a macro with a value list, but only with the first row value of country will be saved as a macro variable value, this value. Are you getting it?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
Pragati?
Yes.
Ampersand is equal to list. So if I check this now,
So we have to write it separated by.
so see what has happened. It's only the first row value it's saving as a
AU.
macro variable. But if we want all these rows values to be saved as a single macro variable,
As we
hence
can
I
use.
write, no, hence I write, if you remember, I said you
Separated by
remember the
comma, yeah.
spelling, yes, it's separated
By space.
by, yes, and you can tell
Here we want space,
space.
but we did with comma before.
Comma, absolutely correct. Correct? See now, the list is having AU space CA
Yeah.
space TA TA. So this is where, now you don't want this result, so you can always create a macro and suppress the output. So you write output. Correct? And thus you will create a macro. So same thing they have shared, that instead of typing these values manually with in operator, why don't we automate the same thing by creating a macro with SQL? So you introduce that you are creating this place with this, and you are telling proc SQL no print select distinct, where you create this macro variable list separated by space, and you use it in your program. %if ampersand place in list, ampersand list. So it absolutely looks like this when it gets resolved. Correct? So that's what it's telling you. And in case if all this condition is false, that none of your macro variable value is among the list, it should put an error, no customers. An additional error, just see here the difference. Here you have colon with your keyword error, but here you have hyphen. Remember, you had one of the exercise earlier with macro that in case your keyword error, if you give with colon, it comes as it shows most of the time in log. But if you give this keyword error with capital and hyphen, this keyword will not appear, but this statement will appear in red. I hope you remember that. Same thing, we'll try here.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It's okay, no problem. No problem. So first call will work, second call you get an error. So what is that error? See, this is coming as it is, but your second line is
Without
coming
error,
with
yeah.
So that keyword is not coming. Why? Because you have specified this with hyphen. But in case if you replace this with colon, you will see the same error message as like this manual. It's telling because this is not true while calling, then what is the valid list? This is the valid list. And why it's coming? Because in your program, you had given that in case if you call any macro with this value, which is not among the list of values, then it should give this statements that it should give error message, no customers from the place, which place AA, and error is the valid list should be this. And that is why you get the same thing. Because when you call, it's telling place is resolving to A. Actually, your ampersand list is resolving to this list of values, and this is the valid list of values. So this is where you are testing your parameters values. So it's data. So third method is data-driven parameter list validation. So with DE, this is with AA. This message. That's it. Understood now? So for your hands-on work with this demo, D05B and D05C. So D05B and C. Yeah, tell me. So what are you getting when you're calling it with AA?
Yeah, I got error. Sorry, no customer from AA, but it should be in a red color, right? Or no, it's not necessary.
So first show me your code.
Okay.
I think if symbol chain is on, then it is
See here. Okay. So first
just a second. Before running, come to your code. So in your code, you are simply telling you are putting a statement. You are not giving a keyword error. It's simple statement.
okay.
If
Yeah, if I
percentage.
add here error.
Right. or capital error with colon,
With colon. Sorry.
space, colon, space. Now execute call this or create this for macro and then call it. No, first you
Oh,
execute the
yes,
macro.
yes. Correct.
See?
Got it. Yes.
So
Thank
yeah,
you.
Meena, you was telling me something.
I will stop sharing.
Okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So what you was telling, Pragati?
No, for second demo, D05C, when I'm calling customer with value DE, I'm not getting result. That's what I'm
Show me
saying.
your code. Just share your screen.
Say here is the code, right?
It's with your ampersand list, correct? Okay, so we call, did
So
you
I
call
first
this? Create
I
a macro.
execute this first. Okay.
So you're not getting a message, a macro is compiled correctly.
Yeah. But why?
Open this option, write options above this macro. Options.
Where?
Here, wherever.
Before creating a macro, write option statement.
Before creating macro?
Options is
Right here.
Okay, options. Oh, sorry.
Options, yeah. Options and compile note equal to all. Now create this macro. So it's not getting any message. So go back to your code. Let's check.
I'm just like executing whatever they
Have
gave.
given.
Yeah.
Okay, just call your macro now. Let's check.
No.
It's not working.
Did I miss any semicolon or something? No.
Do one thing.
Everything worked for Meena, but
Do one
not.
thing. Currently, just start a new session. Log
Okay.
out, sign out.
that percent customers when she's calling, it's all it is not in blue. So it was not in blue.
Okay,
So
can I try?
Session first create your library. It's a new session. Submit one. Now close this code D0C. Open a new again. Open.
Refresh, right?
Yes.
And it was 105.
C. D0.
This one.
5. Yes.
Okay. Do I write
Right
options?
Yes. Open all the options. Options M compile not equal to all. M logics M print submerger. M logic.
Yes, without error. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Got it.
Okay. When you don't get any messages also about compilation mode, now, as I said, you Macro is
Refresh
very
it.
sensitive. Yeah, just refresh your session.
Sure. Thank you, Ashwini.
Yes. So this was all about your and, and exercise. So the exercise I give to you as self-study, but coming to your earlier question about your dates, okay? Now look at here. I was just trying this, that I have created a date this year. Suppose it's 1st Jan 2022. Okay. I want to have the last year to be created. So I have a function called IntNX. Okay, so now what this IntNX function does is, I want to work on year. I'm going to use two. I have a date and I want to have the calculation of it's done. So I'm telling -10, but from this year, it should extract only your value from this date, sorry. Okay, so it's a function which directly works on the duration on your dates. What should be the duration? Okay, and I want to see this date, so I'm applying a format, comma 9 dot, because I'm using a sys function. Now the sys function or q6 function is the same macro function. When I use sys function, you know, your SAS macro or SAS functions is going to use within your macro language. When I use q means in case if you have anywhere any values with quotation marks, this will be taken care of. Okay, that's why it's called as q function. Q sys function. So this IntNX is your SAS function where I provide this duration, that I am working on a duration of year to be extracted from this date on the basis of how many years or how many days behind. So this is, I'm working on year. Therefore, when I execute this and I check my log for my this year and last year value, I get calculation as whatever the this year I have provided. So it's telling this year was 1st Jan 2022. Last year it's telling 1st Jan 2012. So it's working on 10 years on the duration which I have provided is year. So if I want to work on day, so I can here use as the duration is day. So now look at it. Just understand how that IntNX works. So see, simply giving me the day with 1st Jan 2022 minus I had given 10. So I'm working on a duration of day. So my current date is 1st Jan 2022 minus 10. It should give me 10 days prior date. So it's giving me 22 December 2021. So it's on the day. So this IntNX gives me the interval. So this is the interval of day of this date and its number of days or years or months. So in case if you want a month also, that is also possible. So I can write here month. It's the duration on which I get the information. So it will work on 10 months behind. So in case you do not want 10 months behind, okay, so I've given here -10. I can always give the same instruction as I simply write here as 10, no minus sign. So it will work with 10 months later. So IntNX is interval between the dates. So this is my current date and this is 10 months later date. So my current interval is on year. So I use year. So this
Oh,
is what is the
later. Mm.
so
Before
this
we
is
are
later.
minusing. Yeah, before.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was earlier doing minus. But
Minus,
now
yes.
if I write 10, only 10
Only.
without a sign. So it will work
Mhm.
10 or it will give me the 10 or it will give me the prediction of 10 years later. So see, this is telling me post Jan
32.
2032.
Mm.
Okay, so you get introduced to a function called IntNX. All right, so I
Okay.
can give you this code. So it's also been recorded. You can always work out read more into your documentation also. All right. So
Mm.
this is one thing. Did you get this code? Make sure.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can take it, copy it, save it, and while practicing you can work on this. All right.
Yep.
So exercise for this chapter I leave to you as a self-study. So later on I will stop for day. Then we'll see how macro programs are written with iterative processing, that is with your do loop processing. Okay.
Okay.
So for today we'll stop our day. But see to it you revise this with data-driven validation, and of course do the exercise for this particular topic. All right.
Okay.
So let's resume on Friday. Let's say.
Yeah. Sure. Ashwini, I just want to ask, like, what I can give note for this coding just you told.
You can just give that how you like your difference of macro dates.
Year
Means
difference of
when
math.
we want to use this syntax, like when we can.
So it depends. Like when you are going to use these dates in your data, suppose where you have data. Now you can use this last year in that scenario, that ampersand last year, whatever. Where in your, if you remember that report where you did not have no values because the current date was showing you 2022. So
Hmm.
instead of that, you can use this calculation prior, and accordingly you can use this date in your program.
Okay. Okay. So what title you said?
Just like year difference or date difference or macro date differences.
Okay.
Or you can simply write it as calculate date difference of macro variables.
Okay.
So give a name which is resembling to your understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Thank
with this, yes, with this we'll stop our day. So wish you a good day ahead. Thanks for attending. Bye and take care.
Thank you. Bye.